Agricola enough for sale. Agricola enough for sale.
Well, we're going to credit those for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh shit.
So, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
6 minutes after 9 o'clock. My name is Mark Penshop. Welcome. Day after elections, local government elections, the day after local government elections. And don't be fooled, guys. Do not be fooled. Local government elections are important in any democratic society. And no one should dismiss, absolutely no one should dismiss local government elections as inconsequential, not having much value. Local government elections is important because the people get to decide who should govern their localities, their municipalities, and so forth and so on. And again, I repeat, no one, absolutely no one should dismiss that. Now, as it pertains to GCOM being as sluggish as they are, many people are of the view that the chief Crapo, the chief trench Crapo, Barrett Jack there, he's right there. Some people refer to him as the butcher from Unity. The butcher from Unity is running around the place, pomposetting himself as though they have victory to jump on some sort of mountaintop and celebrate. There's no victory for the PPPC. And let's get that straight. Any so-called government that has to spend over $1 billion, to bribe individuals to vote for them, give them t-shirts, give them boxes of food, give them a little $5,000, bus folks in to go from one location to the next so that it can look as though there's some sort of support in that particular area. Absolutely none. And for Jack Deere to sit at a press conference, and claim victory. For example, in Linden, he claimed, they have jumped from maybe 500 or 600 to 2,000. We don't know if those 2,000 votes are accurate. What we do know is that the PPPC is good at rigging elections. That is what we know. We're joined right off the bat by attorney at law, Shellen Washington. Miss Washington, good evening to you. And how are you doing?
Good evening, Mark. I'm doing well. Good evening to all your listeners tonight. And I'm excited to be here. I'm excited at some of the news I've heard coming out of Guyana. It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
It's always good to have you with us here. To begin with, how can you explain, but before I get into that, let me congratulate you as a Lindener, and as a Lindener myself, all 8 constituencies denied the PPP, denied Jack Deere the opportunity to gain control of any of those constituencies. So congratulations to the people of Linden who made this possible. And thanks to you for your support over the weeks, calling on your fellow Lindeners to go out there and do the job. They did just that. Thank you so much. How are you feeling?
I am overwhelmed with joy that the Lindeners, my fellow Lindeners, have done exactly what they know to do best: vote for APNU. The whole time when we were seeing all these deceptive videos and those few people wearing the red t-shirts and Linden, you know, some people were being misled, but I'm glad Lindeners stayed true to their values as to who they really are. So the few people who probably accepted, the contributions or the bribe from the PPP and deceived the PPP into believing that they may have changed their minds, I'm so happy that the Lindeners did exactly what they know to do best, and they did what is right. Stand up for righteousness, stand up for justice, vote APNU. They did just show PPP that they have no interest. And all those people who are just hanging their mouth just to catch a little bit of soup, they should feel embarrassed that they changed course. And look what happened. Lindeners, I'm proud of you. You did great.
There's a Karen Ann who says we washed them. We washed the nut in Linden. I don't know what they mean. We washed the nut in Linden.
You mean they beat them real bad in Linden? They didn't stand a
Thank you. Thank
chance.
you. So in other words, we washed the nut. Mr. Crawford, how are you? We washed the nut in Linden. We
Good,
washed the nut all over. Good evening to you, Mr. Crawford.
good night. Good night, everybody.
And let me take this opportunity also to thank you for your contributions over the weeks or the months leading up to local government elections. Thank you so much for what you have done. What we saw there yesterday was basically the people's campaign. The people didn't wait on any leadership to go. In fact, the people were concerned about that. They put that aside. They went ahead because they're looking at the bigger picture. Congratulations to all those who played a part. Cheryl Thomas went and everybody who played that role. Um, Briefly, Mr. Crawford, Jack Dave is claiming victory. We're not seeing any victory. There's no victory in Linden for the PPP. There's no victory in Georgetown. There's no victory in New Amsterdam. The PNC, APNU, they are still in control of those towns. Your take on Jack Dave and his delusionary antics at those so-called press conference.
Mark, when you listen to that guy, you want to know what is going on in his head. If you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars in buying votes and buying people's loyalty, and you came out weeks ago saying that you're going to capture all these major towns, and in the end you did not succeed, but yet you're going out there and telling people about how many NDCs. They were always controlling all the NDCs from since in the 50s. So that's nothing new. So this guy, he's delusionary. He has a problem with the truth. He failed miserably, and hence the reason why they're tugging at certain little spots trying to get these places like Madhya and Bartika and Plaisance, because he's ashamed of what he has spent and he didn't get to deliver. He miscalculated on the people's loyalty towards the PNC and their opposing views on the way they're treated by this administration. He really think that people were going to sell their souls as the few that he has in his pocket. So he really lost, and he's ashamed. If you look at his press conference, his demeanor is not there. That loudmouth press conference wasn't there. It was lukewarm. It's like somebody who's feeling ill, and he has to because of
Absolutely.
the amount of money that he spent.
Hundreds of millions of dollars, Crawford and Miss Washington. Hundreds of millions of dollars, Caesar. Good evening to you, Mr. Caesar. Let me just also take this opportunity to thank you for what you have done and your input all throughout this local government elections campaign. Thank you so much, sir. You were able to get your folks out in Plaisance and other places, encouraging and motivating people to go out and vote. Thank you, Mr. Caesar, as well. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening to you, Mark, listeners, viewers, Miss Washington, Mr. J.R. Crawford. Good evening to you guys also. Yes.
This is not a success story. This is not a success story for the PPP. It is not a success story for Jack Deere. Why do you, Mr. Caesar, believe that Jack Deere is in some sort of alien world, some sort of outer space thinking to believe that it's a success story for the PPP when they have lost in those townships? Please explain.
Um, Mark, I don't know why he would have that feeling that this was successful. We saw him last night on his press conference and his posture was not good at all. It's not the normal bravado type of posture that Jagdio displays when he come out to his press conferences with his his confidence, showing that he's in control of things. He is no longer, in control the way he would want to be in control. The people would have spoken. And I would say this again, Miss Washington, congratulations to you and your people of Linden. The people of Linden is an example. They have put the mold for the rest of Guyana. I applaud Linden, all 8 constituencies to APNU. Everybody need to look up to Linden and let Linden be the lead. Follow them. And look, Linden is named after a very special person. So
And
hey,
then for Samson Burnham.
amen to that. Amen to that. Listen, Mark, remember this. There was 261 constituencies that the APNU did not compete in. Also, they did not compete in Letem. So I don't know what victory the PPPC is talking about. Now, as for the APNU plus AFC, we did a good last minute job here, but we have a lot of work on the ground to be done, and I want to see those 261 constituencies. We contest elections in those when it comes to general and regional elections.
Absolutely well said. I don't think the PPP has in history ever control any of those constituencies in Linden. So nothing new. It continues. It would have been a surprise if they grabbed one of
I
those
know,
constituencies, but they
I
have never
know.
controlled. Linden has always, and you have reminded us of that, Miss Washington. Linden has always been in control of the PNC.
Yes.
So congrats to the guys out there in Linden. Go ahead, Miss Washington. Take
I was
control.
just agreeing with you, the entire time the PPP was trying to create a false narrative. And I think Jagger needs to be honest with his people. He should be honest with the people of Guyana and let them know that the PPP days are numbered. And if APNU continue on the right direction by getting out there, doing the groundwork, going door to door, knocking, using social media, using the television, utilizing every single method that they can to get the word out about who is running for president. I think the PPP is very well aware that their days is numbered right now and it's being shortened. Even as we sit here, their days are being shortened. So I think Bar Jagdiut is just trying to give a false impression to the people of Guyana to make them believe things are what it isn't. And I think that's the same type of attitude he had prior to the election, trying to create a false narrative so people would believe that they're in control when they really are not, especially with Linden. I would have been extremely surprised because I know Lindeners very well. They've always been one way. The name, Caesar reminds us, the name says it all, who they will always stand for.
Absolutely. Lyndon Fopp, Samson Burnham. Today we see J.R. Crawford with his green shirt again. And a lot of our listeners are complimenting him for his green shirt. He didn't have it on last evening. There was a reason behind that. He had to wash it, but we're glad that it's dry.
Mark, I
Mr.
see Mr.
Crawford,
Mark,
what's
I
going
see
on?
Lal
Go ahead.
Bachchan Prasad. You need to address him.
Who's that?
Lal Bachchan Prasad.
Yeah, Lal Bachchan Prasad is our operator. Lemon has already put him in the gutter where he belongs, and that's it. That's of course, we won't want to waste our energy with that. However, the focus is 2025 or whenever we will have general and regional elections in Guyana. Now, how important is local government elections? We have we're noticing some people dismissing it as inconsequential. Mr. Crawford?
Mark, I've said it before. We need to start to control our immediate surroundings and branch outwards. Quite too often, we are seeing the PNC people that they are not focusing on the small election; they're going for the big swing, and that is because they were not schooled on the importance of holding offices in the smaller arms of government. And we used to take it for granted. You cannot anymore because corruption has gone so far out from from the big guns that every aspect or every opportunity that comes up for a corrupt practice, you're seeing it in today's society. So we need to make sure that we start to hold on to offices that immediately affects us, and so we can build our communities and then branch outwards so we can build a stronger bond across the country. And that is something that we have to learn to, to talk about on a weekly basis to our neighbors or, our friends and families, to let them understand the value and the importance of being in control of our own societies.
Absolutely. That's why we have the NCLDOs, the National Congress of Local Democratic Organs, and the NDCs and so forth. It is important because if you have people who are not in favor of your communities or anti your communities or for whatever reason, then you wouldn't have a say as to how the spending in those communities are being directed. So local government elections are always important. Don't let anybody dismiss that as not being important. Please do not. Mr. Caesar, the importance of local government elections, whether in Guyana or even in the US. I believe you are in the US, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mark, local government elections is extremely important because here's an opportunity, of course, for you to control your direct environment exactly where you live in your own constituency. And I also look at local government election could also be a good table setter for a general and a regional election. Look, people need to become consistent, they need to become more educated on how important, voting is. It's a democratic right, it's a fundamental right, and every time it presents itself, they should exercise that right. Look, picture if we didn't have the opportunity to vote and people was just making decisions for us, how helpful we would have felt. So the opportunity is here now, and whenever there's an election, it doesn't matter if it's a general, a regional, or a local government election, we should always make our vote count because we cannot complain if we did not go there and make our vote count. So it's imperative, I
Well,
would say, that people,
but,
go out and vote.
sorry about that. Well said indeed, Miss Washington. I want to take all of us, unless you have a input there on the importance of local government elections and why people should go out. We are seeing a very, very low turnout, could be in the late 20s or early 30s. How important it is.
I think, Mark, what people need to recognize is your local representative are the one who are in your community. So they're seeing what's actually happening and they know what you have need for. They know exactly what's going on in the community itself. So they're the ones who are going to make a representation on your behalf if they need proper roads, if they need to be the area needs to be cleaned out, if the schools need supplies, whatever is going on in the area, those very local representatives are there to represent the interests of the people. So I think people need to not just take it lightly that your local representative election is not important. And it's important that you have your party representing your community. It wouldn't make sense if you're living in a constituency like in Linden, Region 10, and you're going to have PPP. You already know PPP has no interest in taking care of the needs of the people there. They're not interested in seeking out and looking for the best interest of the people in that area. So in your own community, you need to have proper representation. People who represent your own interests. For instance, Linden, we know APNU is going to represent the interests of the people in Linden because they have people looking just like them in their community. So we don't have to worry about a situation where there's a race disparity or a race interest where one race is looking after the interests of their race. We know that Linden is predominantly Afro-Guyanese. So the more you vote the people who will look into your own interests, it's better for you versus voting the outsiders who really doesn't care about you. Barjak and the PPP doesn't care about the people of Linden. So automatically they're going to vote where their interest is going to be best served. So those elections are very, very important. You need to vote where your interest is going to be best served.
And well said. We also got to be careful of some who may look like us, but some of those very people don't represent our interest either. So we've got to be mindful of those soup drinkers and those sellouts and those
Like
rejects.
that is some of the Lindeners who choose to put that red T-shirt on. But we know that we're in safe hands with APNU because we've seen that in the past. But we know who those soup drinkers are, the one who change into the red T-shirt just for an opportunity.
Absolutely. Before we get back to Mr. Season, Mr. Crawford, GCOM seemed to be, and this is the perception of a lot of Guyanese at home and abroad, that GCOM is cooking something up. They don't like the way that the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, the CEO and the deputy CEO, and those other folks at GCOM, most of them, mind you, there might be some good ones there still, but they just find the sluggishness on the part of GCOM to be highly questionable, and they believe that GCOM is cooking up things, cooking up votes in favor of the chief Crapo, the chief Trench Crapo. But moving away from that, I want to show you a video, assuming that maybe you haven't seen it as yet. Here is a so-called minister of the PPP regime walking into a polling station and demanding to count. Listen to this reaction, guys, and we'll get your take on it right after. It's just about a minute and a half.
Are you not opening up on people like that? No, you were downstairs. I asked you to hold on. She's lying. You see,
All right, Miss Washington, Mr. Caesar, Mr. Crawford, let me just say this right off the bat. Were I a policeman there, I would have thrown that thug, that drunkard, he must have been drunk, throw him on the ground, arrest him, put some handcuffs on him, put some foot shackles on him, and drag him into the police lockups for 72 hours. He's a disgrace for a minister of government, a disgrace for a human being. He had no reason being there, none whatsoever, on elections night. that particular area should have the police, yes, and those relevant authorities to help count the votes. But here it is that this tub, this PPP Lagubagu, this trench crapo, walked into a polling station and demanding that he gets to see what is going on there. Who are these people? Miss Washington, please take the first bite at this. Go ahead.
Mark, the first problem I have with this is security. I believe most of those polling stations, or this is something Guyanese need to consider, having security secure those polling stations so that you wouldn't have lawless people just walking in and demanding things that they shouldn't be demanding. That minister had no business being there. But this kind of brings out or highlights the kind of lawless conduct that the PPP encourages, because we know how we know what they do. We know who they are. Because for him to just walk into that polling station and demand something that he has no business doing, he has no right to be at that polling station. The only people who are supposed to be there are the people who are overseeing the counting, the police officers, and whoever else is there to oversight and make sure that the votes are counted properly. He has no business being there. But, like I said, it highlights the lawless conduct of the people who are attempting to lead the people of Guyana. And Guyanese, please take notice. If you have the people at the very head leading you, acting in a lawless manner, you need to take stock of your own country, because you cannot have the head is out of order. Then what happens to the people underneath the head? If he's supposed to be a minister and he's lawless, then what happens to the population? What happened to the public? Then you're supposed to be lawless too, because you have a lawless government in place. They need to go. And people of Ghana, take notes now, because when it comes to the general elections, these things you need to keep notes of, you need to recall, so that when the time comes, you get them out of there. They're lawless. They have no place leading the people of Ghana, because this is on social media. So now the world gets to see how lawless the PPP are.
And we can just imagine what they did in the 2020 elections when they invaded GCOM's headquarters. We can just imagine all of these things. And now, who told that guy, that so-called minister, questionable minister, junior minister of works? Lots of questionable acts over at the Ministry of Works. Now, who gave this guy this whatever impression that it is okay for him to barge into a polling station where he doesn't belong, to question those in authority there to check up on what's going on? He should have been arrested. He should have been dumped in the goddamn lockups for 72 hours. He should have been charged for elections interference. He should have been charged. I don't know. Mr. Crawford, your take, please, sir.
Mark, when you have the entire government operating in a lawless and disrespectful manner, these things don't surprise me, because the way this administration thinks is that they're invincible. They're a powerhouse. They have their henchmen to enforce whenever they need to. So I am not surprised by the behavior of these big political guys at this juncture, because they're doing it all across the board. They're squandering our monies. Nobody is holding it accountable. The police force is not acting independent anymore. They're acting on instructions from the government, which is why we're in this state. If someone interrupts somebody that is questionable, they make a phone call and everything else goes quiet. If an officer insists, he or she will be transferred into some remote areas. So I am not surprised by the behavior that we're seeing, especially during elections, because when you're desperate, these are the behavior that we will always see, because they know if the people turn on them, they'll lose everything. And that's part of it, the desperation, the fear of being beaten, and that's why they tend to do these things.
Well said. Thank you so much, Mr. Crawford. People are asking the name of that minister. His name is Indar, or Ignar Bharat. Same thing, Ignar, and I don't know. Let's go to Mr. Caesar. I have so much I want to say on this particular minister, so-called minister, and barging into a polling station in Denanstel. Look, someone, if anybody has or Umbrella Man or anybody who has Jagdeer's number could call Jagdeer right now and Rhonda Lane. Maybe, I know Rhonda Lane doesn't have the number, but tell Jagdeer that the correct pronunciation for Denanstel is Denanstel, not Delemstel. I don't know, man. Mr. Caesar, what is your take on this Ignar, this tug, this trench crapo walking into a polling station and demanding that he observe or see what's going on there? Your take, sir, please.
Yeah, well, Mark, first thing, he had no right being there. I think in Melanie also the Attorney General would have attempted to do the same thing. He had no right being there. And based on his behavior, you can and I always say this: these ministers in the PPP, man, they're of questionable character, man. What is this guy doing being a minister? Look at his behavior, atrocious, you know. And these are the things that bother me, because when you look at young people and they're looking for somebody to look up to, they can't look to anybody in this government. Look at the way these guys behave. And when I look at what the man said, nobody can tell him anything. Hey, look, I it doesn't surprise me, because there's nobody to check these guys. There's nobody to check them. He gets away with this. There's no repercussion. His government is not gonna tell him that that was wrong and reprimand him in no way or form. So he feel it's okay to just walk in there and do whatever he feels like doing. Look, Mark, the guy wouldn't just walk in there if he knows that there would be repercussion. He wouldn't behave in that manner. Look, those people are trying to work. He is totally interrupting everything that they're trying to do. So, his behavior is just totally despicable, and it's just a reflection of the government of the day. Like Miss Washington say, flat out lawless.
Flat out lawlessness indeed. Good evening to all of you who have just joined us. All of you in Guyana and outside of Guyana, lawlessness indeed, and interference at the polling station. Jack Dave is calling for a recount in New Amsterdam and some other places. We'll touch on that shortly. But in reference to the recording that Mr. Caesar made mention of earlier, this is what is happening. He mentioned that Anil Nandalal, who is supposedly the Minister of Legal Affairs, walked into the village or the community of Melanie, and he attempted again to bully his way there. I don't know who gave these people this prescriptive rights that they can barge into any area polling stations on elections day to see what is going on. They have absolutely no legal right or authority to do that. Let's go to Melanie, and I say good night to the beautiful people of Melanie, as I commend them also, those folks in Denamstel, for standing up against some PPP thugs. Let's go to Melanie right now. Excuse some of the language being used, but it is people and their emotions.
Oh, shit. Who you coming for? Because their position? Because their position, y'all in front of kill black people children? Y'all in front of killing black people children? Y'all in front of killing black people children? Yeah, you're afraid of killing black people children?
Victorious, misled me ancestors. Me mother
I never seen this yet.
Just because
I never seen this yet. Black people are open my eye.
We are ancestors.
Black people are open my eye.
and get shown overboard for we black people get right.
Black people are up now, this is local government election. What about the general election? What they gonna do to me? Are you up now,
We come, Mark McGarvey think we're like fucking black people. Read it.
But why that's all why Melanie?
Read.
Not there. Not there. Not there. Not there. Not there. You come with them, but you come with them. Wow, look at them.
I give black people peace.
I give black people peace, boy.
Oh God.
Basically, ladies and gentlemen, and all of our listeners and viewers as well, thank you guys. Thank you all for sharing the link. We appreciate it. I don't know what is happening, and the evidence is clear that the PPP, they were concerned about the votes, and so they wanted to go in, walk in, and intimidate individuals, and possibly see what sort of skullduggery they possibly, mind you. There was no reason for them to do these sort of things. Again, Miss Washington, you saw that video. Your take on that? You heard the expressions of the people. The people are tired of being called crab dogs and all these different things by some of the PPP supporters. People are tired of these things. I don't know. Your take, please, ma'am.
The thing is, like I've said it before here, and I just want to highlight it again. You know, the APNU cannot go into certain neighborhoods. They cannot. They simply cannot. They wouldn't be entertained. So I'm not sure why PPP would believe it's okay for them to go into certain neighborhoods, where in certain black neighborhoods, and try. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish, because, you know, people, Guyanese, are fed up. So when they're going to show their faces in the black neighborhoods and try to convince those Guyanese, oh, you know, you need to support us, you need to vote for, it's not going to happen. They're in the wrong neighborhood. They need to stick to what they know. Stick to their comfort zone. Stop trying to go into APNU or PNC stronghold areas and try. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish, what exactly it is that they're trying to accomplish, because they cannot intimidate those people and they cannot stop them from exercising their democratic rights, which is to freedom of expression, express that they're interested in one particular party over the next. So I'm not sure what they're trying to accomplish by harassing these people. Maybe the people should start filing lawsuits for harassment, and that might stop them from going into those areas and harassing those people. Maybe if Guyanese, you know, in Melanie, in Linden, in New Amsterdam, certain areas start filing harassment charges against them, maybe then the PPP is going to become concerned and stop going into these neighborhoods. Because I do not see APNU going into certain PPP stronghold neighborhoods. I don't see it.
And even if PNC or APNU go into PPP strongholds and so forth, at least I haven't seen any disrespectful manner in which these PNC folks, some of them who venture into PPP strongholds, they've always been respectful, as far as I'm aware, very respectful. But when the PPP thugs go into like Anil and Ignar and Jack Dave and these people, they're always disrespectful towards persons of Africa. They go to Linden and they talk about blow. Irfan Ali and Jack Dave and all these, they're making mockery of persons of African descent. You won't find them talking these derogatory things at a predominantly East Indian audience. You won't find that. They go to New Amsterdam and they talk about wood and Aubrey Norton like wood and all these manner of disrespectful, derogatory terms. You were saying something, Ms. White.
This is why I said it's harassment. They're harassing those people. And this is why, if they're not coming for a legitimate purpose into those neighborhoods, those people need to simply file charges of harassment against them, file injunction to stop them from coming. Because what is the purpose? Or people should just not even show up. That's the best thing. Just don't show up. And if they come in an area where you are at a gathering or something, just leave, because what they're doing is harassing those residents. And, you know, APNU doesn't harass anyone, but the PPP makes it their duty to harass people in Afro-Guyanese neighborhoods.
Well said. Mr. Crawford, you saw Anil there, the people in Melanie chasing him out. They're just they're just not happy with him there. Your take, sir.
Well, well, just like the prior video with the other junior minister, Anil should be the last person to do something like that because he is responsible for law and order under this government, and he should set an example and lead by an example. But again, it's not in their nature to follow the laws and respect the laws and let GCOM be an independent body. So all these are just telling us that these people are the ones who are controlling GCOM actually, and it's not there is no independence there. So given Anil as a legal eagle, he should have known better not to breach the GCOM laws and trying to get into the polling area.
I'm not sure that Anil could be described as a legal eagle, more like a legal kiskadi. Well, let's go straight over to Mr. Caesar.
Yeah,
Your
Mark,
take.
I utter the sentiments of the people that I would have heard on the video, and they were saying to Mr. Nandalal and his team that was out there, which I am totally in agreement. When are you guys gonna stop killing black people's children? Now, this government, and I don't want to make these parties, but I do have to because when we look at the murders and the murder rate across Guyana, it's mostly Afro-Guyanese people that are being killed. I utter the sentiments of those people. Mr. Nandalal might be, the minister in charge of legal affairs, but he does not respect the law himself because he had no right being there. And I am fully with the people in confronting him because he's come on, he's navigating onto an area that he has no right being in. The people are doing their work. Let them do the work. Let the democratic process run. And you see, that's the problem with the PPP. They are concerned. And why are they concerned? Because they would have never won the 2020 elections. So they're running scared right now. And it's just time, before we catch up with them. It is just time.
I just wanted to say, let's be clear about Nandalal and who Nandalal is. We can't reference Nandalal and anything to do with upholding the law. As you guys have seen with the situation with Lincoln, the stuff that Nandalal went on a press conference and says, we know what we're dealing with, somebody who's not well learned in the law. And we know that Nandalal holds a position that he's probably not qualified to hold because he himself is a novice to the laws of Ghana. So if he's breaching the very thing that he's supposed to uphold, that is not surprising or shocking, or it shouldn't surprise anyone, because we know when we hear Nandalal speak that we don't know which law school he really went to or how far he actually went, but we know for sure that he doesn't know the law himself. So I'm not expecting anything different from somebody who holds a title as Attorney General in Ghana. It's not surprising. We have a lot of people in Ghana who sits in position that they're not even qualified to hold, and they're not even sure what their role is. So if you got the Attorney General turn up on a polling station, he probably is ignorant of the law, although ignorance is no excuse to committing any offense to the law. We know this guy is ignorant pretty much of what the law is.
They surely do have a lot of incompetent lawyers, some who have a law degree. God in heaven knows how they attain that, but we know who some of those folks are. But we salute the good lawyers in Guyana, the good ones in Guyana. Mr. Crawford sitting there, he should have been a lawyer too, just like you, Miss Washington. Not all of us can be good with numbers and accounts and all these sort of things, so we give kudos to Mr. Caesar as well. And to all of the other good lawyers who are watching this program, good evening to all of you. Here's what I want to do. I want to take us all the way to New Amsterdam. I want you guys to see the tongue that Jack Dale claimed that they were going to capture. Like how back in the days people captured slaves. That's how they wanted to capture these towns, and they weren't able to do that. And so today, the people of New Amsterdam went out in their numbers, in force, to show to Jack Dale and those soup drinkers in New Amsterdam, the few soup drinkers in New Amsterdam, that New Amsterdam is not for sale. We will discuss the 4-3 in favor, 4 in favor, of course, of the PNC, and 3 to the PPP. We will discuss that shortly. But let us go to New Amsterdam right now so that you guys can see, well, it happened earlier, how powerful green is in that beautiful town of New Amsterdam.
Tell them this is our time. Y'all, Mr. Jewel, stand up. Yeah. But we say progress, we say forward ever. So from since so small.
So you see what is happening there in New Amsterdam, right, guys? The vibe scan done. Jack Dale wants a recount. He wants a recount in some of the boxes in New Amsterdam. The PNC, the coalition, got this. They won. A win is a win. There is no justification. You have lost, Jack Dale. Take your thing like a... Sorry about that, guys. Miss Washington, you see what's happened. I must apologize to our viewers. I must. Sometimes I can get a little bit mischievous. But he should take his licks like a person. He should take his licks like a person. How are you feeling seeing that big crowd in New Amsterdam, ma'am?
I mean, I am overwhelmed. I'm happy. I feel very. It gives me hope. It looks very promising, and I feel like, there's still hope for Guyana, and there's a great big chance that when it comes to the general election, we will show up. Guyanese will show up the way they have in the local elections in New Amsterdam, like in Linden, in Melanie, in Georgetown. I think we're getting the message, and I think this is very, very hopeful of what we have accomplished as a people. And now seeing that Barjagdio asking for recount, it shows how desperate they are. He cannot accept something that was inevitable. Like, they cannot win New Amsterdam no matter what they do. I know they took that previous mayor and made her, the face of their campaign in New Amsterdam, but it just wouldn't happen. This was inevitable. The people of New Amsterdam, the people of Georgetown, the people of Melanie, Linden, all those APNU stronghold area, they have spoken. Their votes have done it, and they have sent a clear message to PPP and Barjagio. We, as the people of Ghana, have no interest in you. You and all of those illegally installed ministers need to step down, and your days are numbered. The people have spoken, and they will continue to speak with their vote. And it doesn't matter how much fraud you try, you will not prevail, because the people of Ghana will stand up and they will show the PPP that they do not own our country, but the people of Guyana owns that country, and they've spoken in the local elections, and the same thing is going to be transferred to the general elections. So this is a clear message to them, and I'm happy, I'm hopeful, and I think all Guyanese at this point, when you're looking from wherever you are, this is very, very promising to us as people of Guyana.
Absolutely promising indeed, Mr. Crawford. I thought that I saw somebody like you there on that. No, that's not you. But your take, sir, your take on what we are seeing there in that once beautiful tongue. It is still beautiful, but the PPP for 23 plus 3 years, they have destroyed the tongue of New Amsterdam. Your take on what
Well,
we're seeing there and the people going from.
I am happy that
Go
the
ahead, sir.
people have come together and make sure that PPP doesn't have control, because they had no reason to purposely put the bridge where it is now to destroy the economics of New Amsterdam, which is the first town of our country. And that what they did back then is clearly a vindictive move. It you cannot no one can say it's an oversight. It's by design that they have done what they did to New Amsterdam. And to see that they're coming back trying to buy their way to the top makes you wonder if the PVP are running anything close with respect for anybody else. They feel if they want something, they're going to find a way to disrespect you until they get it. And New Amsterdam is no different. People in New Amsterdam wouldn't forget Everton. They wouldn't forget what the bridge has done to them. And you spoke about it last week that Matthew Allen Road, where so much small business was thriving there. So, looking when you see the people celebrating, you're happy because they've made the sacrifice and they want to enjoy their independence. And I'm all for it 100%.
Absolutely, Mr. Caesar. We are seeing that good vibes there, people's vibes in New Amsterdam, the people's campaign. Kudos to the people in the diaspora who have called, who have campaigned on social media, folks out all across the world who called their relatives, who had their shows on, the influencers, right? I don't know. Jack Deere has some issues. He says influencers. He has some issues with people and all these sort of things. Something is wrong with that guy. That trench crapo, the chief of trench crapo is Barra Jack Deere, and we all know that. Kudos to all the people who made this happen, man. Lots of people who made this happen, and they were able to motivate those who are elected officials on the ground. Some of whom were sleeping. I've noticed some came out. There were a few who were hardworking over the years, yes, but the bulk of them were sleeping. Caesar, how do you feel seeing this large crowd out there in New Amsterdam, sir?
Yeah, Mark, I really, really feel good. And indeed, it's a time for celebration for the people of New Amsterdam. They have retained the tongue of New Amsterdam, and that's a big win for them. I feel like if most of the people have gotten the point, that $40,000 that was being distributed out did not deter them in no way or form. They went and they vote correctly, and hence the results, and they have all right to celebrate and be happy. And I must say, congratulations to the deputy mayor and councillor, Mr. Wainwright McIntosh, and his team. I know he was on the show a few times, and I would say congratulations to them. And while we celebrate, and this is a time to celebrate, There is still a lot of work to do because, listen, this was 4-3. And while it's a win is indeed a win. But 4-3, I sure all you guys on this panel would agree it's a little bit too close for comfort and there is still work to be done. So let's
Um,
celebrate for now, but keeping in mind there is work to be done.
work to be done in work to be done indeed. The PPP, they are masters at rigging elections. Who knows? Maybe they attempted to rig in New Amsterdam and it just didn't work because the people went out in their numbers. Low voters turnout, yes, but they went out in their numbers and they did exactly what needed to be done. Miss Washington, 4-3. Jack Day was begging and he's hoping to twist the arms of the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission into a recount. They'll have to take it to a vote by the commissioners, 6 commissioners that are there.
I do not
Your
think
take on Jack Deere's cry, sorry, for a recount.
I do not think a recount is necessary in this case. I mean, 4-3, it to some people it might seem close, but what you need to do is find out what the numbers are, like how many votes we actually got, APNU got. And I think the margin would have been wide enough for there to be, instead of like 3.5 and somebody has like 4, I think it's wide enough, is a wide enough margin, even though I don't know the exact number of votes yet. I don't think there's any need for a recount because a win is a win. I don't see where in there would give Bar Jagdeo the right to demand a recount unless he know that we won by 1 vote or 2 votes. And I don't think it's a close enough. Usually when there's a very, very tight margin, like it's really, really close in terms of the actual numbers of votes, then you could say, okay, we need a recount. But I don't, or if it was a draw, like both sides had the same amount of seats. But I don't think that's even possible if they would have gotten the same amount of votes on, equally on both sides. That I don't even think that's possible. And I think the margin would have been wide enough. And I think once we get the actual numbers, that will actually help us to come to a better conclusion. But as it is right now, 3-4, I don't think there's any reason for a recount. It's not a close call. 3 is 3, 4 is 4. I don't think there's anything to say, well, oh, yes, we have a very, very close call there, and we need to demand, Barajak has a right to demand a recall. Barajak needs to take this with strides and just move on, because New Amsterdam, traditionally, we know where New Amsterdam vote usually lie. So for PPP to come and try to get into this town, this neighborhood, and to try to get votes there and then demand a recount in an area where they know predominantly that's never been one of their stronghold. I don't think that's necessary at this point.
Absolutely. And majority of the people believe that it is not necessary. Jack Deere should take his licks. Yeah, take his licks and just move on. He's a sore loser, and this is a guy who sits at a press conference and basically say that they have succeeded. Anybody, if I spend 1 point something billion dollars, again I repeat, 1 something billion dollars to bribe and to corrupt people in elections and walk away with that and call it a success story. Something is wrong. And we already know that something is wrong with Barajak Deer. To call that a success story. Something is definitely wrong with that guy. Look at the amount of monies, taxpayers' monies they spent. $1.5 billion. You know what that money could have done? It could have bought some new teeth for Ravindra Jamwat. He could have bought some new teeth for the current Minister of Indigenous Affairs and so forth and so on. Mr. Caesar, $1.5 billion, and he has failed, yet he's calling it a success story.
Well,
Take it
Mark,
on.
yes, Mark, first of all, this can happen because we don't have proper campaigning rules and regulations in Guyana. And that's something that I'm saying that I'm going to be pushing with the new government to address just about immediately, because this is totally wrong. It puts the PPPC at a huge advantage when they're able to, push out all this finances. And it's not to say that it's coming from donors, it is taxpayers' money. This is absolutely wrong and can be considered to be very fraudulent also on the part of the PPPC. Like I said, when it from a financial perspective, coalition versus the PPPC is David versus Goliath, because the PPC has all the money that they can dispose and push out to their people. That being said, Mark, here is where it becomes very, very interesting. That $40,000 that was given out to the people to vote. Remember, when you're talking about finances and people being able to maintain themselves, maintain their families, it needs to be consistent. It cannot be a handout. When you hand out $40,000 to someone, it may last a month or two. Let's see how the PPPC is able to sustain this. People are going to wake up and they're going to understand, because after this, they have nothing to get. Then they're going to come around again at regional and general election time, and they're going to try to do the same thing. So I really, really want to see if the people will look up to the people in Linden and Melanie and these places and do what is right. Do
Absolutely.
what is right.
And do what is right indeed. 6 minutes after 10 o'clock. My name is Mark Benchop. In case you are a new listener or viewer, we have with us Mr. Wayne Caesar, an accountant. We have Mr. J.R. Crawford, just basically giving the PPP hell in Guyana. He's a businessman, but he has put his business on hold because of spite and vindictiveness on the part of the PPPC regime. And we have attorney at law, prominent attorney at law, who went to law school and actually passed all of her law exams. And she can talk the law, write the law, unlike some folks in Guyana, including Anil Nandalal, who knows nothing about the law. Miss Washington, with what the PPP, if I were in a position to say that the PPPC should just kiss themselves goodbye because they have lost this local government elections, they are claiming victory. Let us take, for example, what happened in Corriverton. The lowest voters turnout in Corriverton, and a couple hundred folks voted in favor of the PPPC. If I'm not mistaken, the coalition did well. The people went out from Little Africa and Little India, just for our viewers to know that there's a place in Corriverton called Little Africa and Little India. The PPPC have lost. When I say they have lost, because people have stayed home in their numbers in their so-called stronghold of Rose Hall as well. Lots of the people, PPP supporters, have stayed home. So how the heck? The supporters have stayed home in their thousands. They go into areas where they can buy votes, bribe individuals, like some of those Pakus in Linden, some of those Pakus in New Amsterdam, bribe them with hundreds of millions of dollars, but yet they couldn't penetrate, yet they couldn't capture these tongues. Shame on Jack Dale. Shame on all of the PPP Lagu Bagus. Miss Washington, anything else on your mind that's bothering you? Maybe GCOM, the sluggishness on the part of GCOM, is it suspicious, you think?
I think GCOM, we've been having problems with GCOM, and I'm not sure there's a way to fix that at this point, especially since we know we have Claudette Singh, and we've been mentioning her on this show. I think we've been having problem with her as the head of GCOM. I don't know if there's specifically a way other than through laws or legislation to properly ensure that there's transparency with GCOM and to ensure that the correct person is appointed. I know it's a position that, you're appointed as the head of GCOM, but, there have to be a better way to to do this so that we could ensure that there is transparency in the election, and the votes are properly counted, and the decision that there's no fraud, there's no evidence of suspicion. Maybe legislating the next time APNU gets into parliament, they get into power, and I'm hopeful that APNU will get back into government. And once that happens, I think one of the things that they should make a priority is elections law and how GCOM should be operated, whether or not that should be a position that the people should vote that person into that office, or however it's decided other than an appointment, because we need the right person there who's going to be transparent, they're going to be honest, and they're going to ensure that the votes are properly counted and there's no collusion and there's no fraud. Because right now people are concerned that if any of the votes are recounted, the possibility of fraud or collusion might be a real, very real possibility occurring there in GCOM. So I mean, we can't trust GCOM. And if we can't trust GCOM, I don't know who we can trust at this point. But I'm hopeful that, they wouldn't go back and recount any votes. The votes will remain as is. It's already been counted. And I hope that we will take or transfer that same type of attitude where once the votes are counted, that's it. It's counted. And if there's no fraud, as in the case of New Amsterdam, there's no evidence of fraud. There's no allegations of fraud. And I don't believe we should go back to recount anything unless there's allegations of fraud or misconduct on the parts of the elections officials.
Well, if there any sort of misconduct and fraud and so forth, it will definitely come in the direction of the PPP with knowledge by some of those corrupt individuals at GCOM. And people have not much faith. Majority of the people of Guyana or in Guyana do not have faith in Claudette Singh. Sorry.
I don't think anyone could have faith in Claudette Singh after the things that we've been seeing in over the past couple of years, especially in the most recent elections, 2020 elections. I don't think anybody have faith in her. Is there a way for them to remove her? She needs to be removed from office, and somebody
she will with the sins. Claudette Singh. Let's Washington and JR. We'll get to JR and Mr. Caesar as well. Jagdeo, the Jagabat, the known chief Jagabat, the butcher of unity, and he's also known as the chief trench crapper. At his press conference, or so-called press conference, he said that the APNU-PNC and social media commentators and so forth were spreading racism, and that's what they resort to, racism and all manner of stupidity coming from Chief Trench Crappo Barra Jagdeo. Look who were the people who were spreading racism. Look, there is the evidence. If he can point to any person on social media, any commentator, any APNU-PNC person or persons who were spreading racism during the course of the campaign, I need for him to show the evidence. But let us show you guys the evidence of what the PPP folks were doing and spreading during the course of the local government elections.
Think about not eating chicken curry. Think about the police gotta come in, you gotta hide your curry. You don't want those days back. We are voting for the PPP to secure our future and our children's future. So come out to the vote PPP.
You heard that, lady. People basically, police arresting people because and taking away the curry and the karahi and so forth and so on. Who is spreading racism? Who is spreading division? The PPP. There were PPP officials at that so-called meeting that were clapping and agreeing with that silly little PPP trench crappo. Who? That's the evidence.
But Mark, I'm confused. Yeah. I'm confused on the which government did that happen. I'm confused as to what she's even talking about.
That people used to get locked up the quarry.
That's why I'm confused. I'm confused about that. Where does she?
And this is the same chief trench crapper Jagdeo is saying that APNU-PNC people. And look at who is spreading. Mr. Crawford? Oh, sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Your
No.
your take on that.
Here,
Go ahead.
here what my problem is with Jack Deal. The the guy seems to have a knack in turning things around and misrepresenting everything that happens.
I missed your
And
point there. You seem to have a knock at what? Go ahead.
as in turning things around,
Okay,
and
sorry. Go
everything
ahead.
that they're saying is not something that is true. And he seems to have an audience that is buying everything. And what is happening with the PPP is this misrepresentation, and it's a continuous thing that's going on, and it's a sad situation where Jagdeo has turned everything upside down, and it's causing a problem for people to have an honest opinion of what is going on here and the negative effect that the PPP is having on our society. And when you look at how sad Guyanese have become, where they are being manipulated and we are being divided, and so many things that are going wrong in our society, that we are so far back in society as compared to our sisters countries around here, that you know I don't know if we are ever going to be able to come together to be a better nation and have things in a structured manner where we are all unified and benefiting from the current events and the current um what am I say, the need for us to be a better nation. I keep watching a Jagdeo press conference today. I couldn't help but looking at it for a couple of minutes, and it's sad to see how he was working the numbers and all the stuff around. And he didn't call your name, but he called the social commentators, and I know where he was going. And he's claiming that APNU and the others are misrepresenting the numbers. He don't know where they got the numbers from. Well, there's some numbers here, even the ones from Barticker that I was looking at. We were reading from the numbers that were sent out from these polling places, but yet he's saying that he doesn't know where we are getting the information from. So there, and like I said 3 days ago on this program, they are going to finagle with the numbers for some strange reason. That is why we are not seeing any declaration. It's going to take, he said, about 2 to 3 days. When you look at the behavior of the PPP, if they were out front, we would have had a declaration. But because we were on point to call things out, we were now being ridiculed by him because he got caught with his pants down. He doesn't really want to call names, but yet today, when he was reading out his numbers, those were numbers that we must accept. But when we read our numbers last night that was sent into this station,
Yeah.
they are being ridiculed. And we got our numbers not by making up things here. People were sending the information from each of the polling stations.
Credible source, credible
Right. And
information we're getting.
he got annoyed because we were on it from the get-go and he couldn't defend it. So now he's putting a negative spin on it, and his supporters are so gullible. They believe everything he's saying. And I could send you 10 numbers right now that I'm looking on this screen here that out of Bartica, and I'm still wondering to know why Bartica is up in the air.
Let us definitely, Mr. Crawford. He wants people to believe his narratives. Whatever he says, his numbers are always accurate. Everything for everything for him
It's
is accurate. Every single thing. 19 minutes after 10 o'clock. Mr. Caesar, you want to add anything to what we were just discussing there while we prepare to go to for our closing remarks?
Yeah, sure. I want to add something, Mark. I'm very, very, very disgusted with the Guyana Election Commission. It supposed to be an autonomous, independent body. Okay, and it's not displaying those characteristics at the moment. I would have spoken last night and I would have commented saying that I would have expected declaration this morning. Why I'm saying this is because the sample size that we're dealing with is quite small. We had a low voter turnout, and to what Miss Washington was saying, we need some change here. We need to move to biometrics. We cannot, we cannot afford to have an election, right? That is, when you go to the polls, it's done fairly. And then when it gets to the Guyana Election Commission, the numbers have to be manipulated by a dictator. They cannot declare an election because they have to follow his narrative. It is totally irresponsible on the part of the Guyana Election Commission, and they are shortchanging our citizens. And I think that the opposition needs to come out and speak to this. This is ridiculous. It should not be happening. This man is the way he is because he is not consistently checked. He needs to be checked. Guyana cannot be ruled by one man. It's a country. It takes people to rule a country, not one man. So he needs to get out of here with his dictatorial behavior. I personally would not stand for his nonsense.
Thank you very much, Mr. Caesar. 21,
Mark.
21, 1 second, 21 minutes after 10 o'clock. We're looking to wrap up at this point in time. And it is questionable that GCOM has not been able to properly declare some of those areas that are outstanding. It is questionable because people believe that they want to cook the books, they want to rig the elections in those areas, and people must stand strong. Hopefully the PNC and the leadership of the opposition, APNU, would have regular press conferences. Staying silent for days wouldn't do the trick at all. Mr. Crawford, your closing remarks, please, sir.
Mark, before I start, did you take a look at what I sent you there?
Well, we will deal with that some other time. The
No,
numbers for
because
Jack Dew, the
those-
numbers for Jack Dew are fake numbers, and we will deal with that individual some other time.
Okay.
Go ahead.
In closing, I, like you said, I would like to see a more aggressive opposition. And, in the past, we had to be plugging at them every single day, calling them out for them to be, on the ball. The ball has started to roll now. They've seen, what is it? They've seen the assistance from the people, the loyalty. Yes, we are only about between 27 to 30% turnout on this local election. But this is a great step for the opposition. We need to get our team on the ground, and I spoke about it last night, where we cannot be missing the beat. We cannot be taking holidays and vacation when it comes to dealing with issues and connecting on the ground. We need to start to energize our support base, and also we need to start to add to our support group. There are many, many opportunities out there for us to improve our numbers, and the people from absconding from the election yesterday, they're telling us there's an opportunity for us if we approach them and if we have the right people to speak to them and to sell our ideas and our message, we can be in a better shape in this coming general election. So I'm hoping that the controlling team, they're going to get on the ball, get things rolling, and there's no excuse now for us to say that we have to wait on funds or something. We have to find the ways and means to reach out to the people, and not only the ones in green, but also the ones in red. And we must remember that as an opposition, as a political body, we work for all of Ghana and not just our support team or our supporters. So I will be watching to see how our party go forward from here on.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your closing remarks there, Mr. J.R. Crawford. Let's go quickly to Suresh Muklal. Suresh Muklal, living up to his name, Muklal. Muklal is saying, you people are getting a dose, D-O-E-S, a dose of your own medicine, a D-O-E-S. Name and nature, Muklal. And guess what Muklal gets tonight? We can't leave tonight without giving this Muk, the award. Just a dry Muk falling for that award. Muklal. Can't even spell. D-O-E-S. You're getting a dose. D-O-E-S. That little Muk. We'll leave Miss Washington for last for her closing remarks, but Mr. Caesar, your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, Mark, based on the time frame that the decision was made for us, the APNU, to go ahead and contest this election, I thought that they did an excellent job. That being said, going forward, we need to be very concise with our decision making. Is either we are going to contest or we are not going to contest, and put together our strategies early. Us not contesting Letem was a huge disappointment to me personally. And like I said, we did not contest 261 other constituencies that need to be addressed ASAP. And speaking of now, we need to continue to remain vigilant. We have our people there at GCOM. They need to have their eyes open. There is no room for negotiating with the PPPC. The numbers are what they are. And again, I'll say it, based on the sample size, it's a disgrace that we don't have a declaration throughout the country for all constituencies. This is ridiculous, and we need to get out of this way of having one man control the narrative in the country. People need to step up and they need to start checking Barra Jagdeo.
One individual who appears to be dominating in terms of or humbugging progress in the country. One thing, and that is the Trench Crapo, the leader of the Trench Crapo, who is also known as the butcher, the ruthless butcher from Unity. As we close off this evening, Miss Washington gets the last word. You're an attorney. Kudos to your law firm there in Brooklyn. I'm sure many people would want to get in touch with you, your office, for whatever legal matters they do have. But let me take you to Linden, though. And since one of these individuals happen to be someone that you know, people have been asking for them. Let me show them before we have your closing remarks. And I show them because they're all embarrassed right now in Linden, these guys.
Yeah, this is...
We're getting up like, come on.
Yeah, this is the elite team. The root team. Strong team.
Number one.
PPP team. Yeah. You understand? PPP all the way.
Fort.
Yeah, one Guyana.
Yes. Holding the fort for Monday morning.
In any weather, rain, sun,
we are
in the night. We there right here. We ain't going nowhere.
They're right there. They're right there. They ain't going nowhere.
Mark, can you send me that?
I have a strong feeling you know that one with the red short and the big guts, a little big guts in front of him,
You,
but I'm
Mark,
not
you've
gonna ask
been
you.
trying to figure
Yeah,
out which one it is that I actually know, but I wouldn't
your closing
disclose.
remarks, please.
I
Leave
wouldn't.
the people with something positive. Go ahead.
But thank you for having me again on this show tonight. I want to thank all of your listeners, all of the viewers out there. Thank you guys, as always, for sharing this link. It's important that whatever we discuss here, that your friends, your family, whoever you might have in Guyana, they're privy to this discussion. They're privy to this conversation. As always, guys, I would tell you, knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you succeed, because knowledge is power. And, I want to say thanks to all those people out there. Again, as always, thank you so much for your support, for your love, your referrals. Thank you guys so much. Thanks to all those Guyanese people, Guyanese, Trinidadians, Bajans, Jamaicans, all of you pay attention to Mark's show. And you've been giving my number out to your friends, your family, your neighbor, whoever it is. I want to say thank you so much. I love and appreciate you guys so much. And also, I want to say to my fellow Lindeners, congratulations on the job. Well done. I want to say you did great. You voted the correct way. And I want to tell you to keep it up, because when it comes to general elections, I expect that the same type of whatever it is you have that drove you to the polls to go out in numbers, the same type of energy you used to go out to the poll and vote. Your voices were heard, and you vote APNU. And I think that is the job well done. Kudos to you guys in Linden. And thank you guys so much as usual. Kudos to the people in New Amsterdam also. Kudos to the people in Melanie. Kudos to people in Georgetown. You did great. You went out in your numbers and you voted. And I want to encourage everybody in Guyana and the other constituencies who we haven't mentioned or who I don't know the results of your vote. I want to encourage you to go out. General elections is around the corner. You too must go up. Every vote count. As long as you're going to vote APNU, your vote count. It matters. Go out in your numbers. Take your friends, drag your neighbors, whoever it is. I want you to remember that, because when general election comes around, we want to see the same type of energy transferable to that. So Guyanese people, my people in Guyana, in the diaspora, I want to say thank you all for encouraging everyone who went out and voted in the local election. Thank you for using your social media platform, for encouraging people. And I want you to keep this same energy when it comes to the general election. And I want to say good night to you all. God bless you. Thank you again for your love and support. And thank you, Mark, for a job well done. Mark has been here. He's been diligently getting on his live every single night leading up to the elections, encouraging you guys, pointing you guys in the right direction. So you guys need to continue to take those pointers and drive yourself in the right direction. Pay attention to what the adversary is doing. Pay attention to what the corrupt PPP is doing to our beloved Guyana. Focus and do the right thing. Thank you, guys. Good night. God bless you.
Thank you so much, all of
Good
you,
night.
Mr. Crawford, Mr. Caesar, and Miss Washington, and to all of our beautiful people, all of our listeners out there. Thank you all so much. A job well done. It could not have happened without you guys. Trust me. You guys are the visionaries behind that. You guys are the true architect behind this victory. You guys are the true strategist behind this. You guys were not sleeping on the wheels at all. You guys did what was necessary, and a job well done. Let's go to Linden. People are kicking bricks in other parts of the country, but in Linden, people are kicking this. Thank you all so much. Have a great night. God bless you all. Mr. Crawford, Mr. Caesar, Miss Washington, thank you all.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
You gotta love Guyanese people, right? But that's a nice cup, anyways, to do exactly what the woman was asking what do we do with the cup? All right, looking at some of your comments, I just have you know that we got to continue to keep hope alive. Better days are ahead. Yes, we deserve better. We deserve better leadership across the board. Better leadership across the board. But kudos to all of you who made this victory possible. Kudos to the few hardworking MPs who went out there on the ground, not for a photograph, not for a show, but went out there genuinely on the ground with the people. We need our MPs to be there, not 24/7, but constantly on the ground, yes, with the people. That is what they're being paid to do. And when they go on the ground to represent your interest, they're not doing you a favor. It is what they're being paid to do and what we expect of them to do. Kudos to them. And good evening to my friend Lurleen Nestor, who is Lurleen Nestor. Lurleen Nestor. Kudos to her indeed. She's in Guyana and she assisted with the campaign, a campaign that needed a lot of help out of Congress Place. Lots of help. And that's why I'm saying kudos to the people, the ordinary folks who made that happen. It would not have been any victory without the assistance of those ordinary folks who took the bull by its horn. All right. We've got to go now. God bless you all. Let's leave you guys with something really nice and positive. The people of New Amsterdam doing what is well deserved. No recount in New Amsterdam. There is no need for a recount. The PPP got beat in New Amsterdam. They got beaten in New Amsterdam, and that's it. God bless you all. See you tomorrow.
So this is Attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington law firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Tell them this is our time. Y'all can constituency left. Yeah. But we say progress, we say forward ever. I so from since I small. I can't be that's all I whine like a man. What too much to touch me, I come to get a man. If you make it up, like a man, number two is the fool. And my God, that's all me. And I cannot say no. You went to the university, you would have made the right choice. We going green, we stay green. That's right. Life is the books away. The green
And you're confident that you're going to deliver credible and fair elections?
Of course. Only one way I know, and that is the correct way.